Welcome. I invite you to gather around the hearth. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Fireside Chats. Before I spoke, I breathed, and today the breath is different. This is episode 3. Today, I want to talk about what I call the yeah, but syndrome. What is the yeah, but syndrome? The yeah, but syndrome is when we come face to face with our own behavior. And then in a blink of an eye, our minds begin to rationalize, justify, and come up with excuses as to why we don't have to change our behavior. We convince ourselves that we are well intentioned, and we say things like, yeah, but this, and yeah, but that. But what are some examples of the yeah, but syndrome? Yeah, but my situation is different. Yeah, but they should do it first. And this is one of my personal favorites because I used to do this one. Yeah, but I'll change when. And still another one. Yeah, but what about them and what about when? We all do this. And I mean, we all do this. Until the moment, however, until the moment we decide to change our own behavior, regardless of what someone else is doing or not doing. No matter what your story is or what your excuses are, we all deflect from being responsible for our own behavior. We have all convinced ourselves that my situation is different. You've got to see it my way. And I'm going to convince you as much as I can for you to see it my way. We especially do this with public figures. It takes a lot of vulnerability to put yourself out on stage. And for some reason, as soon as a public figure makes a mistake, we go on the attack and we think we are justified even more in condemning, in criticizing, and justifying with our own reasons as to why someone else should change their behavior first, especially if they are on in the public eye all the time. We think it's our job to hold each other accountable. We use that word accountability, but we're not holding ourselves accountable. We're going around policing each other, correcting each other. And think we're justified in doing that. And it doesn't matter what our reasons are. We find a reason to go around correcting each other without correcting ourselves first. And we've convinced ourselves that we have. Again, we're justified, but it doesn't matter the person or the situation. We are still deflecting no matter who is involved or what the story is that we've created. So what is really going on here? Why does the yeah, but syndrome even exist? Well, the bottom line is we're feeling discomfort, emotional discomfort. We are uncomfortable because we have to look at something within ourselves that we are unwilling to look at. And every time we feel discomfort, we are allowing the ego to take over, and we will do anything we can to avoid the emotional pain of feeling that discomfort. And it doesn't matter how well intentioned we may think we are, when we avoid our behavior, this is the ego at play. And this egoic behavior is far more dangerous than someone creating their own personal stage in order to be seen. And the deeper truth of all this, we are afraid of being in coherence with each other. Because when we are in coherence, love naturally happens. Stories, justifications, and boundary lines no longer exist. Because when we stop the yeah, but, when we stop behaving this way, we experience what true love is for ourselves and with each other. But true love requires vulnerability. And the deeper truth still, we are all afraid to be vulnerable. It takes courage to look at our own behavior. Vulnerability plus honesty equals authenticity, and authenticity equals courage. How different would our lives be and our society be if we stopped saying, yeah, but? If we took the time to see the beauty in ourselves and each other beyond the yeah, but, I think we'd have a very different world. So I invite you to see how often you say, yeah, but, and to see what breathline you were about to stabilize before you interrupted it with a story. Thank you for joining me around the hearth, where words are not echoes, but where breath is the original language. Fireside chats is not an echo. It is my breath line that I share with you, and this is about breathing together.